first exercise is actually done on the floor, a position I'm familiar with after many of my workouts. This version of lumbar exercise was actually shown to me by Ken Hutchins several years ago, and it is an on-the-floor version of his linear spine machine done in a time-static contraction protocol. So what you do is you get flat on your back. I'm going to try to tint my shirt up here a little bit so you can see how I'm laying. And once you get flat on your back, what you do is you squinch down so that you're marching your shoulder blades toward your pelvis. And you get that position so you've got a tunnel running underneath here, an exaggeration of the lumbar curvature there. And then place your hands on top of your belly, and I'll leave my elbows up so you can see what we're doing. And then we do a time-static contraction for 15 seconds at a time. The first round will be at 25% effort. Then we relax. The second round will be at 50%. Then relax. Third round at 75%. Fourth round, hard as you can. And what you do to do the movement is you imagine driving your shoulder blades into the floor and your pelvis straight down on the floor and exaggerating the lumbar curve of your back. Now this is placing the lumbar extensors, the superficial ones, in a tightly contracted position. So you got to do it gradually so as to not produce a cramp. But as you do this, you'll transfer a lot of that load or a lot of that effort onto the deeper musculature. So what you do is you're going to be pushing your belly towards the ceiling, butt and shoulder blades into the floor, and producing an intense arch in your back at 25% effort for 15 seconds. And when that's done, you relax. And then you slowly come up again into an intense arch. Shoulder blades and pelvis into the floor, intense arch in the back at 50% effort, held for 15 seconds. And then when that's done, you relax. You come up and do it again, same thing, but this is the position, and you'll do it at 75% effort, and you relax, and then you'll do it at 100% effort for 15 seconds, and then your set is over. This doesn't seem very dramatic when you're watching someone do it, but the sensation that it produces in the lumbar spine is very intense, and subjectively is very similar to what I experienced on the MedX medical lumbar machine. So now we'll move on to the next exercise. Okay, the next exercise that we can use it to target the same area in the same way is a version of the deadlift, and it does not take much weight at all because of the way in which we do this. It is sort of built around a Romanian style of deadlift, and what we mean by that is when you get in position, you're actually going to have your rear end or your butt stuck out and try to hold it stable in that position. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick up the bar and we're going to start from about mid-shin level. And we're going to drag the bar on our shins and over the top of our knee while keeping our butt fixed in the same position. Now if you have a post or a wall that you can back up against to stabilize or keep your bottom in the same position, that'll be helpful. And then what you're doing is you're just exaggerating the lumbar lordotic curve as you come over your knee, and then you just slide it back down over. And you do that repeatedly, not necessarily until failure, but until you have a deep sensation of fatigue. At no point do you want to fatigue so much that you allow your back to round or lose the lumbar curvature. What I've done is I've moved closer to a pullover machine so I can have some sort of sensation of keeping my buttock lightly in contact with the vertical surface. Now I'll go ahead and demonstrate for you what this movement looks like. First thing, you got to pick it up and get it to mid-shin level. And then once there, this is what we're doing. And you'll notice we're just exaggerating the lumbar curvature as we come up. And remember, those extrinsic muscles are contracting from the base of your skull to your sacrum. So the entire spine
has to curve in a lordotic direction. Neutral head position will not necessarily be maintained. But that's what we're doing. And I can tell you, you really feel it. Okay, this version of lumbar extension I also got from Ken Hutchins. It was off of one of his videotapes of sub-protocols that he produced just prior to his involvement with the super slow zone. Now when you do this one, you can come very close to violating Ken's principle of not allowing your head to fall below the level of your heart while under exertion. But it does produce a very good effect in the lumbar extensors, but it requires some thinking and coordination to accomplish. What you do is you get under the roller pads and plant your feet. You're going to be grabbing the bar like this. The real key in this is to mentally stabilize your pelvis, imagining that you were cranked into a MedX machine. Now it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to approach the letter of the law. We're going to be hanging on to the movement arm up here, and we're going to be doing a lumbar extension like this. And when we get here, we're going to try to exaggerate the lumbar curvature in the back. When you're hanging onto the bar, you're just using your hands as hooks to allow resistance to be loaded onto the torso. One thing not to do, though, is don't just ape hang so that your shoulders kind of roll forward out of socket. That's damaging to the shoulder girdle and the rotator cuff. We want to keep that tight, but mentally be using this only as a means of connecting the resistance to our torso. And I'll show you a couple reps of what that's going to look like. We're going to start off in this position here, and then we just extend lumbar spine. When we get here, we really exaggerate the lumbar curvature like we did on the floor exercise. And then we uncontract. You get the torso almost to vertical, and then you reverse again. And you have to do this by feel. My demonstrating it for you will not necessarily get it, but when you get on and try these things, try to replicate that same burn, deep burn in the lumbar area that you feel on a MedX machine, particularly the medical machine, and just try to reproduce that sensation. When you do, that's because you're activating the multifidi and the really deep musculature. Now, that cadence is probably a little faster than super slow, but that was just because I wanted to take the time to demonstrate to you a few repetitions, and I was getting tired. But it may be actually a little bit slower cadence than that, but the real emphasis is on exaggerating the lumbar curve. So there are 3 movements that we use here at Ultimate Exercise to substitute for our lack of a MedX or a linear spine machine, and we seem to get by okay with it. If you want to try it, I wish you luck. Let us know what you think. Thanks.